Good. So this is ways of applying your drawing skills, and we're going to cover the idea of cartooning, sketching, and what a realistic drawing is. So up till now, we've kind of talked about shapes and we've talked about like proportions. And I like this segment because basically it gives you an idea of what to do when you sit down to draw. And I think sometimes when we sit down to draw, we all walk in with a default, like I want it to look realistic, or I have this one thing that I want to do and get done. And let's say you haven't really drawn a lot before, and this is kind of for you to kind of to frame your mind a little bit as to what you can reasonably expect to accomplish when you're sitting down. And even so that you don't maybe start thinking, hey, I got to get all this stuff done, and it's not realistic. Realistic meaning a real expectation that you can actually meet and exceed at. And that's really important because if you think you're supposed to be making a finished drawing every time you sit down, that's maybe if you looked in a magazine or you saw something you liked, maybe it took that person 60 hours and you're at it for 10 minutes. Like that's kind of not really in your best interest, in fact, to kind of go there. So the first one we're going to talk about is cartoons. So a cartoon is, and we're going to write up some definitions here. It's for our purposes, it's something done freehand. There's no measuring. And it's one that I would say another characteristic of a cartoon is first line is the last line. And there's sort of an immediate result. You know exactly what is coming out of this cartoon experience, and I'll give you some examples. And just keep in mind too, these are presented as ways to get you into starting your drawing experience so that you can apply information quickly and get a result in a way that's going to be satisfying to yourself. These aren't meant as this is the definition of a cartoon in the macro art world sense. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is like entry points as to how you can start drawing. So if I do this freehand, you know, I mean, what is that?
Stop sign.
You know, it's a stop sign, right? We got the color of the stop sign. I know it's a yield sign. And I don't even have to put the words on. You just know what that thing is, right? Mm-hmm. If I start playing with some shapes here, I do this, you know, what am I drawing? It's not necessarily good.
Oh, like Mickey.
Mickey Mouse, yeah. So, you know, just a few circles and that, I got my information across. I'm not the best cartoonist. But very quickly, we get this information across. It's not necessarily great, but it is sort of is what it is. We know what these things are pretty quickly up here. One of my favorite go-tos here. Yeah, I don't really even have to be good at this to get this information across. Within seconds, I've communicated all this information about all these things. So if I want to expand my picture a little bit, the cat wandering on a path in a very orderly fashion. I don't know why, but that's what he's doing. You know, I mean, what's happening up here? sun, there's mountains, there's a cat on a path. Oh, there's grass, because grass, what grass does. It took me about 15 seconds, and we know all this information about what's going on in there. That's pretty powerful if you think about it, because with this kind of drawing, you could actually just make pictograms that describe things to people like really quickly, without any real training. You're just like, oh, this is what the visual cue of the triangle thing is. If I do a couple of little squigglies on there, you're sure it's a mountain. They're not pyramids, they're mountains. If I make them a little more jagged, now it's the mountain range that look like it could have been the pyramids before, rooftops. If I did the same thing over here and I just let the thing overhang a little bit, now we know it's a house. Everybody knows this is smoke. It's crazy. Just instantly, you're like, boom, I know what that thing is. And these aren't complicated. You could just you could just Google like cartoon images, graphic images, and you'd get all this stuff. So pretty powerful, and not to be underestimated how useful cartoons are for life. I'll do one more just because I like this segment. If I was in another country, like, oh my God, I drank 4 cups of coffee. Which door do I use? Do I go in that door? Or doing really terrible? Or do I go in that door and I'm a man? So, you gotta go the whichever one is appropriate. Maybe they have both together. Now we know. I know someone's gonna watch this if this is on YouTube and make a political thing with this, but we at least know what is intended in this in some way, shape, or form, regardless of whatever your position is in all this. So, yeah, and pretty cool. Pretty cool that we, for that matter, even if you are gonna make that political, all those squigglies, that was 2 seconds of squiggles on there, and all that information you extrapolated out of that one thing, and it's a cartoon. It's crazy. Yeah, regardless of where you went with that, that's pretty fascinating. Okay, so cartoon, yeah. So that's good. So the reason I like doing this one, especially because this is a realistic school and it's a classical art school, I find this one the most fascinating because we spend a lot of time really getting our drawings exact. We spend a lot of time modeling, making sure everything is just so and it's perfect and everything. And arguably a lot of the time, a lot of pictures could have been done quicker and more to a better point with a cartoon. Okay, so let's do a sketch now. So the idea with the sketch is you're going to be using some construction lines that maybe your lines are searching. You might use multiple lines. They can be, the time frame isn't exact, but a minute to, maybe 2 or 3 hours, depending on the kind of sketch. If I do an oil sketch in color, I might spend 2 or 3 hours on it. It still might look and feel sketchy, like it's not processed looking or polished looking. I might do a really good job on it. It might be an excellent sketch, but it's not meant to be like a finished. Might I hang it on the wall as a finished piece of artwork? Absolutely, but it's not. It's meant to be sort of abbreviations of things, or you might do it in line, value. You might do it in color. So you could use all these things, but it's not meant to be. Specifically, it's not meant to be a fully realized 3-dimensional rendering of every facet of the form. A finished piece of artwork, or like a fully realistic piece of artwork, absolutely, and we'll get to that in a second. But this is kind of cool because without going into finish now, I have two options for drawing that are just like, in a sense, sort of frivolous. Like I can just go on and do something really quickly. I can do these in seconds or a couple minutes, and the time expenditure for what you get out of it is huge. And you can even throw them away when you're done because they don't even have to be seen. So you can explore an immense amount of material in a short amount of time between cartooning and sketching. If I want to just explore the objects in the room in line, I can do it really quickly by sketching. Just be like, oh, there's a triangle for that easel, and there's a crossbar, and there's a vertical part, and there's it's great. So with sketching too, you may or may not use proportion. And not that everything has proportion, but how much you measure, you might do no measuring, or you might actually do a lot of measuring. So, yeah, you can kind of go either way on that. And it's a great, sort of a great thing, because you can do all sorts of things with sketching, and I'm going to do a little demoing after this so we can kind of see. I demonstrated that cartoon, but we'll do a little longer on this. All right, so the last part we're going to talk about what makes something realistic. So just kind of right off the bat, it looks like something. It represents something, something. It will take, generally speaking, it'll take longer than a cartoon or a sketch. It'll take longer than these guys. You will have to set up a proportion system. And as far as time frame goes, you can spend, if you're gonna draw something realistically, like I would say like 5 minutes to, months or years. So if I was really going to do the justice on a realistic drawing, you're talking, if it's a small thing, at least talking a couple of hours. If I'm doing a single object and want to draw it realistically, if it's tinier, I can spend a couple hours and get it really polished. But if you're talking detail, finesse, really understanding the thing, yeah, you gotta put the time in on it. And it doesn't mean you can't abbreviate it, get something closer, quicker, but just knowing that alone should be like, hey, I'm in the train station. Where do I want to go? I only have an hour. I'll leave the train station and I'll check out the bookstore around the corner. I can do that and get back to the train. But if I have days or weeks, then I can walk into the countryside. I can plan trips. That's takes longer. So just a nice heads up on that. It's a good way to start framing out what you're doing. If I wanted to do a realistic thing and I knew I could only do a start, then I'd do a sketch that kind of was veering more toward a realistic setup that I might know I want to work longer. And in the beginning, I recommend that you're doing starts and you're repeating, doing starts and repeating. It's good to know. I kind of wish this was explained more fully to me when I was a student, and I'm sure it was, but I just, being thick like any other person, it really took me a while to get it. So, yeah, go ahead.
There's no set amount of time to gauge how a drawing is complete. It's all on you to be like, all right, I want it as realistic as possible, I'm gonna take as long as possible. Whereas
Yes and no. Like once we get into it more, I sometimes say like, I think you're spending longer here than you might need to be. Like, and it's cumbersome. Like, it's not helping you. And we'll try to trim those things. Like, it's like coaching. I'll watch you run and you'd be like, hey, you're kicking your feet up too much in this, when you turn the corner or whatever. Like, yeah. But yeah, I'm not going to give you hard rules on that now because it's not the right place for that. But it's a good question. Certainly, you want to just sort of be efficient, and not efficient like you're trying to. Just efficient from the standpoint of like, what am I doing now? And even not knowing what you're doing, but plowing ahead anyway is nice because then you're trying and you're exploring, and that's almost just as important. If you don't know right now, I would say keep doing it anyway because you gotta apply. You have to be uncomfortable. You will be uncomfortable. Like, just get over it. You're gonna be uncomfortable because it's all new. Yeah, like that's the best thing you can do. If you stop because you think you're not doing it right, don't do that. Just keep drawing. And if you're trying to get it to look like the thing, just keep following that. It's the best thing you can do. Because all this is kind of, in a sense, nonsense, because you're going to have to just draw anyway.
Yeah, make your marks on your actual drawing.
So let's do, we'll do a cartoon sketch. And do some demoing up here.